Hey folks, are you running Shadow of the Dragon Queen like I am? Do you wish you had one of those neat Boilerdrake minis for a certain upcoming encounter, but you didn't get one in your recent unboxing video / fiasco? Well, let's fix all that today and make one. And just keep telling yourself it'll be just as good as the real thing. Just as good. Okay, you know the deal. I'm Eddie G, I'm DM Fumble, and this is Fumbling Around. And today, we're going to get our arts and our crafts on. And remember to stick around at the end, where I show you some extra tips and tricks that you can do to bring your Boilerdrake up another level. Okay, Boilerdrake, what is it? In the Dragonlance Dragon Queen campaign, it's a Tinker Gnome-made vehicle. Think what Leonardo da Vinci would create if he crossed a tank and a dragon while tripping balls. And that's what you're going to get. Inside the vehicle, there's 4 workers, and it seems like it needs 3 of them to actually fire the main gun, which is really cool. The front of it looks like a dragon's head, and it belches out this blast of fire, enough to kill your party if you're not careful. And then there's this 4th driver, which I'm guessing is responsible for actually driving the vehicle around. My first thought for creating something like this was maybe to scratch build something with popsicle sticks and balsa wood, or maybe some kind of 3D print. Unfortunately, I don't think I have enough time to do all that and have it ready by my next Dragon Queen session. That's when I recalled something I did back for my Cursor Strahd campaign and created a flat 2D token. I thought this is something I could definitely do in time for my next Dragon Queen session, but with one big if. And that big if is I needed to find the right image. I needed to find a piece of art that looked like a dragon, it had to look mechanical, and I wanted it to be a top-down view because I want to make it as a token and then place my workers inside of it. So that's when I fired up my Google skills and started looking up things like steampunk dragon, mechanical dragon, clockwork dragon, but nothing useful came up. Then I happened to be on a website called 2 Minute Maps, searching through their token tool, and there'll be a link in the doobly-doo below. Okay, I'm getting a little bit used to that. Interestingly enough, the 2 Minute Map site has a clockwork and it has a mechanical dragon, neither of which are actually in that top-down view, unlike almost all the rest of their tokens. Anyway, I start searching dragon, and that's when I find this image. This image is 20 times perfect, especially because I can use the color options on the side to change the color and make it look more like what I want for my Boilerdrake. I look up the hex or web color for copper, along with some other complementary shades, and start playing around with it in the token tool. And that's when I come up with this version of the image. Now I felt that I had a dragon image that was mechanical enough to sub in for the Boilerdrake. When I downloaded the image, I saw that it was a PNG file. Bingo, another win, because PNG files usually don't have a background. That means all I needed to do now was slot in some kind of background. In this case, I wanted cobblestone since the combat is taking place inside a city, and I'm basically done. For the background, you can Google all kinds of various images, and you will find plenty. I used one I already had, and I started assembling everything I had in Photoshop. I wanted the token to be about 6 by 6 inches. That would give me enough room in the middle of the dragon to fit my 4 workers that I needed to imagine being inside this mechanical monstrosity. I also wanted the image to be about 150 dpi. That's ideal for printing on most home printers. I use Photoshop because that's what I have handy. But you can use any photo program, ideally one that supports layers, but even that's not necessarily required. So with cobblestone as my base layer, I create a new layer and add in my Boilerdrake image, and then I size it accordingly. And that looks like this. Just a note, by keeping the background layer and the creature on separate layers, I can come back in anytime I want and change out that background for some other terrain, grasslands, rocky mountains, whatever it might be, without affecting the creature layer, and then print out a new version. Hey there, do you like what you're seeing? Maybe consider hitting that like button and the subscribe button too. And hit the notification if you want to know when new content is made available right away. I greatly appreciate the efforts, and it helps YouTube decide who else to suggest this content out to. And now back to our regularly scheduled video. At this point, you have options. You can just print out your image on paper, trim the excess, and be done. The downside here is that the corners of the paper are going to curl up and it won't actually have any weight on your battle map table. It'll easily slide around or blow around with just a light breeze. Next, you could print on cardstock. It's a little bit better than paper, a little bit more weight to it. It's less likely to curl, but does have some tendency to curl, and it won't slide around as much. So your third option, if you want to do a bit more work, and I did, was to print out the image and then mount it on foam core. For the foam core, you can get a sheet at your local dollar store. And it's also great because they're big sheets and you've got extra for other projects. As an alternate to foam core, you could use something like cardboard that you might have lying around, from Amazon boxes, or chipboard, if you have any of that available as well. To mount the image, you can use something like Elmer's glue, but I would stay away from the liquid kind. It's usually too watery and it can soak and rip your paper. Use a glue stick if you have to, or if you can, find Eileen's Tacky Glue. It's usually available at most craft stores. It's less watery and you can easily apply it with a brush. Since I had some lying around, I used Super 77. And this is super. There's a reason for that, because it is crazy adhesive. After you spray the back of your image, the paper image, be careful when you're laying it on the surface. You really do only get one shot with this. There's no lying it down, pulling it up right away and trying to reposition it. You're done. Start again. Once you lay it down, smooth it out as best you can and give it some time to dry. Then you can just trim the edges and you're good to go. Just before I was about to do this, I had an idea. I wanted the tile to be round, not square. This way, when my Boilerdrake starts turning in combat, the square edges aren't going to knock into whatever else might be nearby. So to do this, I created a layer mask in the photo program in Photoshop as a circle, and then I inverted the selection and I masked out the corners, creating a circular version of the image. If you're not familiar with things like layers, masks, and selections, check out some of the other YouTube video tutorials on these topics. Or you can just print it out as a square and use a lid to trace out the circle that you want. At this point, I print, mount, and then I carefully cut with my utility knife. Be careful with these things. Cut responsibly, because these things will shred you up if you're not careful. Okay, and there you have it. Here is a finished Boilerdrake. And here are some of those tips and tricks I promised at the beginning of the video. I put in a little bit of a black background around the edge here just to kind of jazz it up a bit. Now I did that in Photoshop. You can just as easily do that with a handy dandy Sharpie. I then took the Sharpie and actually colored in some of the foam core. Now I probably could have printed it out on black foam core, which I have seen, but I only had the white available, so I used that and then used my Sharpie. The other thing you'll notice here is that I actually put in a little extra effort and used some photo manipulation to add wheels to my Boilerdrake, making it look a little bit more like the mechanical device that it is in the module and that miniature that I still don't have. Anyway, this is photo manipulation, and this is well outside the scope of this channel. Again, look for other tutorials if this is something you really want to try. So there it is, a quick and easy way to make a nice chunky token for your games. So go make some Boilerdrakes. Or wyverns, or dragon owls. Just saying. Cheers. Until next time.